Chill here with Sirius Talis Moon. This is Mercury Hour. Mercury is direct in 20 degrees Scorpio, ruled by 18 degrees Mars in Sagittarius in the 12th house with Jupiter in the 7th house. And the Moon is 3 degrees Aries. Midheaven is applying to Spica, and Spica is needed for the topic of conversation. Some more Saturn Neptune now that Saturn is direct and Uranus at the end of Taurus retrograde. What prompted me to press record is news about, I'm going to show you through the comment. There was a documentary about ticks created by scientists to kill. A testimony of someone who lives in Maine. She said, I lived in Maine my whole life. It absolutely has been corrupted by elite sprays, bioengineering, weather modification, and so on over the last few decades. This was the worst year for gardeners and growing crops by design. They want food shortages and no self-sufficiency. More fake food because all the poison, and now Mars is 18 degree Sag, we're trying to get out of the food wasn't working fast enough for them. And the title of this is Maine's Moose Started Dying in Clusters, and what biologists found next was pure nightmare fuel. You can watch the article itself, and it basically talks about an old tick being spread because of supposedly warmer temperature by the masses, and the solution of hunting and depopulating moose to save and create to basically depopulate also the ticks that hunt them, so to save the moose and making moose less lucrative for ticks. Um, or only the strongest will survive, and so on. Now, this is a strategy that I know in forestry about avoiding deforestation and believing that setting forests on fire, I don't know how much certain regions in the United States um, may have been the point of practice. Um okay, probably was classified, but here's the thing. One great way to grow forests is dig half moons into arid land. And they explore the deforestation by actually depopulating forests. Now, another thing that depopulating forests does is exposing the bare soil to satellite vision, which, of course, at time before is kind of important. My grandfather escaped the ghetto in Poland through the forests in Italy. Now, another form of the supposition that we can sacrifice some to save the many is, of course, the famous saying attributed to Joseph Stalin about we'll kill hundred thousands to save millions. They definitely did save millions, but not millions of people. I remind you that entire Bolshevik schools, and by the way, not only Jews. People blame the Jews in Bolshevism. It's kind of like blaming, I don't know, every single Christian on art in Inquisition. It doesn't okay, it doesn't make too much sense. But definitely, the funding for both capitalism and Bolshevism was by oil companies, and to overtake oil resources by revolution. Um, if that reminds you of the B6 vibes, then this is B6 cloak. So that's something that we do see. And so, while some revolutions were a necessity, the caveat was definitely the wealth consolidation on tortured and enslaved children. And I highly recommend to watch the recent episode by Annika Lucas on YouTube on her podcast, interviewing Svensko, who is a survivor of the eastern side of that particular network of torture and extortion cults that work with the oil companies, the bankers, and the monarchies to consolidate wealth on natural resources and real estate and do rituals that prevent sovereignty, growth, health, or healthy livestock, which is the case of the moose here. Now, with Neptune, Saturn, Neptune are hard to diagnose medical conditions as well. There's the mystery and disease, okay, and a holistic perspective of something that have been closely isolated, and it's also what is real and what is not real, because in all these stories that are being represented as nature, okay, we need to understand the design on the nature of nature. Trees, cattle, babies, and the weather that tells a story that would make it look like we're looking at a natural phenomena and learning from nature. Because of course if we save the trees by sacrificing some trees, and we save the moose by sacrificing quite a shit ton of moose, then maybe we can save humanity by sacrificing a lot of humanity, and then the population becomes an actual necessity of nature rather than a by design influx and bubble pop of corruption, slavery, and so on and so forth. Now, nature does tend to nature. Okay? After the two world wars, women got the right to vote. Eventually, LGBTQ, a couple of decades, almost a century later, will get the right to marry one another. Okay? Of course, up next is sexual sovereignty. Of course, up next is the rights of children. How many people have to die? Is it natural that the entire humanity has to die so that there would be no rape? Because it will if it's so. And yet, with Neptune, Saturn that are about to ingress Aries, Aries is the head of the issue. And this is where we might be able to diagnose what is the head of the strategy of causing viral problems and then bringing viral solutions. And who is the head of the profit from creating a bigger problem and offering that particular solution? This is happening in a world degree, so okay, tending to the trouble of livestock, because that is going to be presented as learning from nature on longevity. Now, certain things to keep in mind. There are places where definitely, nature is nature. Okay, definitely there is such thing as nature. Definitely there is such thing as death. Definitely there is such thing as facing harsh conditions. And how can that be together with a scientist from Copenhagen that looks into the uh, the the tectonic plates of ice movements? She has to come to her workplace, and then piles of snow each year make the team have to go deeper into the same location because the piles of snow are mounting. How does that coincide with a supposed warmer climate? One would say, well, there's a bipolar effect. The summer is hotter, the winter is colder. But aren't we talking about losing the Arctic ice? Because the ice is paramounting. These are some, and who is going to tell that? Well, the indigenous people, they know the area for quite some time. If I talk to a bus driver, a Bedouin bus driver, okay, that could be my father, telling me that his grandfather told him that in his time, the camels weren't, the back of the camel was not able to be seen because of so many crops of the sugar canes hiding the back of the camels. We used to think, when I was born, I was told that camel is a desert animal. But here, the indigenous people to the land, that I know it's very weird to say about Bedouin indigenous because they travel from here to there. And everything we were taught about Bedouin is actually probably wrong, because we were taught that they are kind of like desert species that travel, and even the laws that they would slaughter the last sheep for a visitor, but 3 days after they leave, they are allowed to hunt, to steal from even the people that they hosted, because that's basically what they make the money of. Because it's a desert climate, it's kind of like, well, that's very weird if the actual grandfather of a native Bedouin person saw the back of the camels could not be seen by the crops of the sugar canes, and I see eucalyptus trees on freaking mountains 500 levels above sea. So the entire place was a swamp. That's now a desert, less than a century. And then I'm being told that this area is being rewilded. That all the area towards Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, all the places where we're told that they're irrational players when they have A bombs, okay? That all these places are going to be recropped. Now, the funny thing about polarities is the more power someone wishes to yield over nature, the more they have to accommodate for extinct species. So think about the A-bombs, Chernobyl. Chernobyl became a lush forest of extinct species, and those species that were not sexually polarized, that they were multiplying autonomously, began to be sexually polarized. That was a freaking A-bomb radiation. But then again, people are not such a big risk to nature when they're not raped and enslaved. Because if I take a look and I go to Annika Lucas' last episode, which was with Sven Skoll, the testimony of this man um, is basically that he was a boy and he was also dressed as a girl to be sex slave, but they were sending the girls to be raped and get pregnant. Then if a girl got pregnant, they would blackmail the people for a prolonged period of time because the baby need to be grown. And this is how they used overpopulation by rape to extort resources from the people. Okay? If there would be no extortion cult, a lot of these babies wouldn't have been born, and we wouldn't have to sacrifice or depopulate them to supposedly save the species. Now, what was the motivation? Well, oil here, oil there. Okay, divide and conquer, but then make peace so that they wouldn't rebel and play with the peace and war in a certain particular way. Now, Saturn, going back to Saturn Neptune, We're going to see what is the head, the mastermind behind these type of methods of creating problems and then solving them. And usually it's done by the problem becoming so big that we cannot not see its head. And that's going to be juxtaposed to Uranus in Gemini, or still Uranus in Taurus. I think Uranus is going to be with Beta Persei, which further accentuate. Let's go to Valentine's Day. They meet on Valentine's Day. What can I say? I cannot make it up. So Valentine's Day 2026. Naja. 2026. Valentine's Day, Neptune and Saturn kiss. And it is the kiss of death. On the world degree. People that have solar return around this time, you know, life, there's going to be a significant event. A story to tell the children. Or not. No, this is 17 February. It's right before the solar eclipse. So it's going to ingress in a couple of days, 3 days later, solar eclipse. It's going to accentuate the Saturn Neptune. These are slow moving planets. They're going to still be on the 0 degree. This is going to be a month, okay? Remember the February where the Ukraine war started? Not even the tip of the iceberg. This one is a world degree. Because then Saturn was kissing Pluto with Jupiter, and that was a kiss of death. A kiss of mass death. It also happened around the 22nd degree, I think. Remember where people were just talking about the upcoming Pluto return of the United States? And now we're past it, and the kettle is dying up north, or being mass assassinated up north. That's so. Let's go to Faber 14. Uranus will already be direct in Taurus. A degree from Beta Persei. What is Beta Persei? Mundanely dead bodies upon dead bodies. Okay? Now, why? To do. Okay? The story of Medusa Gorgon. Somebody thought that she tempted somebody. Well, in fact, she was raped, not believed, murdered, had her hair turned to snakes. What's going to happen to the people that do that? Dead bodies upon dead bodies. And Pluto is going to be 4 degrees Aquarius. So Mars is going to be in Aquarius as well. Sun is going to be in orb, juxtaposing Deneb Algedy, that is both the sacrifice star and the protection of. Okay, protecting from, keeping the order, the good cop that actually does the job to protect the people. So why does it square Beta Persei? Oh, due process. Saturn is process and due process. Beta Persei did not get due process. There would be no due process to litigate Poseidon. Was it Poseidon? No. The hubby of Aphrodite. And not only that, the nature of the offense is negating due process. Beta Persei is associated with decapitation, losing the head, or loss of the mandate of the heaven. It's also associated with elite families and the royal family. Yes, I have a lot of family there. Yes, I know. I'm not a I'm not a royal. I'm not a monarch. I mean, but when it comes to the damn Chaos, nobody knows. But this, but this is Um, and this is going to be really, really accentuated. The midheavens above, it's the Taliban midheaven, it's Donald Trump's midheaven, it's the Venus of Melania Trump. There are a couple of more midheavens that I'm uh, decentralizing jabs. It wasn't November decentralizing jabs. And uh, Venus is going to be exalted in Pisces, Jupiter in Cancer, the moon in Capricorn, which means that the moon is activating this Saturn. And so definitely we're going to be tending to, um, Aries is the head of, okay, and these are worldly issues. Um, Definitely there's going to be a beta per se type of theme playing along. And with Uranus, we can't predict. Okay, for example, if I take a look at Sven's story, Sven Cole. Call it Sven Skull. Yeah, Sven Cole. And anyway, but the story here is of a person that was tortured, being dressed up as a girl to be trafficked and be a sex slave. And basically only when he got old enough, he was freed by somebody that paid to supposedly buy him from the slavery trade. This is happening in East Germany, and Annika Lucas talks about the Detru network, which was the same network she was tortured at, and all of these people like to bury people alive. That was like their thing. And and now why is it? Is because the death how should I say that? They wanted people to dissociate from the near death experience, and they wanted people to face that through trauma, and then to both fear that but also not fear the consequences of um, doing harms and be convinced that. So that was kind of like an important part of the ceremony, where they would be up with a decaying corpse and they would face this, and they were supposed to think that that's all there is, that there's nothing more, that everything is nothing. And even if they did have other gnosis from near death experiences that they did have, they would become dissociated and tortured from that. And so there was a disconnect from anything that is um, a part of the natural cycle of life and death, that actually tells, in many cases, more of a way more benevolent story. And the power issue was to control, and to control they needed to disconnect. Um, and this is why Jupiter is both the planet of benevolence, making something bigger, truth. Okay, we make something big enough, we can see the truth, and also cohesion. And actually got the word cohesion from an astrologer that has his ascendant with Jupiter in Cancer exalted on the anaretic degree. That's Austin Kopok. I don't know if Jupiter is on the anaretic or the ascendant on the anaretic, but sometime I remember that it was anaretic regarding also to that Jupiter. I have anaretic degree, a lot of divination in Scorpio, so I tend to nature and stuff, but this is with the word cohesion, cannot be without nourishment, which is why Jupiter exalts in Cancer. When one is well nourished and cared for in a way that is genuinely and authentically benevolent, then they can both experience the world in a certain way. But Jupiter is also philosophy and divine connection and truth, so they can see the truth and they can be benevolent from that vantage point. So the story of Jupiter is also the story of a religion, and we saw how the ritual abuse tries to get at the moment of conception, because Jupiter is also the sperm that the egg either selects or that meets with, because Jupiter is manifestation and optimism, and then that egg is basically encompassing and creating a world where there is growth, okay, where something can grow. And this is exactly um, the attempt to control that process and divert it to places that are not necessarily truly benevolent. It's basically the battle of nature with nature itself. I know that I have Scorpio ninth house, so I tend to talk in those type of terms. Um, but this is also where, for cohesion to be, there actually needs to be a nourished environment that allows something to grow, and this is also imperative for truth. So for us to see the world truthfully, we need to be well nourished for that cohesion to exist. Now, upon the ingress, the moon will be applying to oppose this Jupiter retrograde, which always gives us eurekas, um, the, 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 the thunderbolt, the lightning strike. Okay, with Jupiter retrograde is the lightning strike of truth. And think about the lightning strike being used as a Nazi symbolism for the SS. Okay, the attempt to mimic, to get to the best approximation of nature and to change nature so that something would look natural. And particularly when the harm is done on nature, then then people would look to that nature to see the origin of something, and they see that nature has been fumbled with if they connect with the people that were naturally living in the place or that are native to the place. And this is also, unfortunately, why we have the extinction and the. But it's not just think about genocide. It's like, okay, mass death of people. No, it's not just mass death. It's to try to take the identity, the name, the blood, the knowledge, the wisdom away and disconnect. Now, the number one thing that make everything more susceptible on a human level to that is rape, but also rape of cattle. Okay, now again, I'm not talking about vegan, not vegan. Actually, people that grow cattle, even for food, they are more in contact with the growing conditions of the cattle. And this is why it was not allowed for people to have farmland unless they were complying with certain standards. And that is, okay, yet another can of worms that the Neptune Saturn will be addressing, because it's a world degree, all encompassing change. And with Beta Persei, there's going to be a lot of the royal families are going to be connected a lot with that. Um, teeth. Saturn is teeth. Think about Liechtenstein that makes fake teeth, but Liechtenstein openly made its wealth by money laundering. And so, what is the natal chart for Liechtenstein? No, it's August 23rd, 1866. Um, by the way, when I say teacher or acknowledge, naturally I have Uranus in the 10th house, so I'm always rebellious. Okay, that's important. That's important to mention. Um, it's honoring the people that I learned from. That being said, I do have Uranus in the 10th house. It's the planet of revolution. And 10th house is our parents, but in Jupiter's sign is also our authority figure teachers. And anything that tries to pause Uranus in the 10th house is doomed. um, or either they go through the revolution and they have growth, but it's growth through revolution. If they try to tame the particular rebellious streak from the Uranus, from the Uranus native, okay, from the children basically, because Jupiter is children, then this is where the worst effect of Uranus ensue. And so Sol 29 degrees Leo, Sun Regulus, and back then it was Regulus, it's before Regulus ingress to Virgo, with Mercury, Ascendant, Anaretic degree Gemini. Mercury is also associated with teeth. Okay, it's the small bones in our mouth. So the small bones, okay, small Mercury, bone, Saturn. Um, and also fingers and toes and limbs. Saturn 7 degrees Scorpio. Saturn opposing Pluto. Okay, and I do consider this wide orbit opposition. Pluto opposing Lilith. Pluto 15 degrees Taurus, conjoining my sun, conjoining certain people's Rahu. It's like, it's next to your sun, it's next to your Rahu. By the way, Adolf Hitler had Pluto next to my Rahu. Definitely people that bring about growth. Um, Jupiter in Capricorn, Moon in Capricorn, midheaven 28 degrees Aquarius. Neptune, it's going to be Neptune return for Liechtenstein. Okay, there's going to be 15 years of Neptune return for Liechtenstein. Um, Venus in Libra, Rahu in Libra, which means the Ketu is, the moon was crossing over the Ketu of Liechtenstein as I broadcast this episode. So Saturn and Neptune are going to be 2 degrees away from the Ketu of Liechtenstein. I don't know what that means, folks. Follow the money. Not in this case, it's stealth money. Follow the teeth. I don't. But they made fake teeth. I think it's seen more by the Mars in Mercury sign. Or technology around teeth. Yes, Mars is ruling both Saturn and is ruled by Mercury. Uranus in Cancer with the moon in Saturn sign. So technology of nourishing something to do with Saturn can be fake teeth. Like this is a very interesting combination to get the fake teeth from. But to sell a lot of fake teeth, people need to lose their real ones. But still also have money to pay for the teeth. So So basically, the things that would cause people to lose their teeth is usually poverty. And so, but people in poverty don't have money to buy fake teeth. There's, unless it's subsidized and the teeth are sold to their governments. Can, but the only treatment that's hardly ever subsidized is teeth. So who are the clients of these fake teeth? Yes. Yes. I don't know.